So, the origin of South Asian English language. And previously, we have discussed the origin of Canadian English, American English, Australian English, and New Zealand English. Today, our concern is to discuss the origin of English language that is used in South Asian region. And we know that several countries are there, but the major countries in this area are India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bhutan, and Nepal. And in these countries, English language is used. Though English is not the first language, and English is used either as second language or as an official language or as a foreign language. And previously we have discussed what is the definition of second language, what is the definition of official language, what is the definition of foreign language. Actually, in case of English language speakers, these South Asian continent, that means the Indian subcontinent, plays a very significant role only for the cause that the people use English language is this in this area. The number is larger than the English speaking speaker of USA and UK. If we think that USA is the first country, though UK is the country where English is originated. But in terms of speakers, if we get the ratio of English speaking people, that the people who use English language in South Asian continent, that number is larger than the speaker of USA and UK. And this is for the reason that in this position, the speaker of English language are increasing day by day, especially in the recent years. But if we think the history, if we consider the history, traditional history, naturally 3 to 5% people of this area use English language. And that would be 30 to 50 million up to 1999. And when the population of India passed a billion, India comes first in this list because the population of India is very large, and also the country is very vast. It covers a long area. Many states are there in India. So in India, we see that, or in Indian subcontinent, we see 3 to 5% people had been using English up to 1999. That means 30 to 50 million people at that time using English language either as first language or second language or foreign language or official language. Since then, the estimates have crept up nearly 20%. For example, in one encyclopedia summary, from 1999, the number of English-speaking people geared up, and it goes up to 20% in this area, from 5% to 20%. And with one influential review estimated that perhaps a third of the people of India are now capable of holding a conversation in English. They have. It means that 1 person in 3, they can make a conversation in English language. They have a satisfactory level of understanding to use English language in their conversation. 1 in 3%. In real terms, these estimates represent a range of 30 million to over 330 million. Actually, if we consider the ratio, that means there are some level of understanding in case of language proficiency, level 1, level 2, who are very much well to make conversation in a language. They are called the level 1, level 2, like that. So if we consider this scenario of language usage, we will easily understand that 330 million people living in this area, they can use English language. For comprehension with a somewhat lower figure, 200 million for speech production. And we must not forget that there are also considerable number of English speakers elsewhere in this region, which comprises 5 other countries, that is Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Nepal, and Bhutan. So the ratio in India, we see that 330 million people, they can use English language in all level 1, level 2. They can easily communicate in English language, or they have the passive vocabulary. They can understand English, but they can't speak in English. So this kind of people we see living in India, that is 330 million in number. And apart from this 330 million people, we see English speaking people living in this area. They are living in Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Nepal, and Bhutan. And if we consider the population of this area, that means India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bhutan, it means we see that 1/5 world population lives in this area. And the English language user living in this area, they use a language that is very different in pronunciation. They use English language not exactly like the British or American English, or this English is hasn't doesn't have the similarity with Australian English as well. And for this reason, we see the Indian English has a very distinctive variety in pronunciation pattern. However, the number is not less significant. That means a significant number of people use English language in Indian or Indian subcontinent in this Asian region. And their English language speaking pattern or pronunciation pattern is different from American English, British English, and also the Australian English. However, they have a very, this English has a very distinctive pronunciation pattern that is recognizable all over the world nowadays. And these varieties are less than 200 years old. So how these Asian people, we got such kind of English linguistics variety? And if we see the historical background, we have to go back nearly 200 years. And but they are already among the most distinctive varieties in the English speaking world that I have already said. So history says that the legacy, the linguistic legacy, especially the English linguistic legacy, the Asian people, the South Asian people has got from uh, 300 to 400 years back. And when we will be discussing the history, that would be very much clear to us. In this regard, the first contact of English language here in this area that happened for the British arrival in this area. And the British people came in this area to rule the country, not at first to rule the country, they came to make a business. And that happened in the early 17th century. The specific year is 1600 year, 1600. And in that year, the British people came in this area to make business, and especially the company we know that the British East India Company, and that company got approval from the Queen Elizabeth to make business in this area. And these people actually were the merchant people. They came here to make business, and they came in 1600 years. That means the early of 17th century. When the company came, they established their station in India and subcontinent first at Surat, Surat. You look the pronunciation here. That means the spelling over here. That is Surat, and they established their first British East India Company that they would call at the time that the British Trading Station that was established in 1612, and that was established in 1612. And by the end of this century, that means by the end of this 17th century, they established three other trading station, and their existence is at Madras, Bombay, and Calcutta. So when the British merchant people got approval from the Queen Elizabeth and came over here in South Asian region to do business, and they established their first trading station in Surat, and successively at the end of the 17th century, they established their trading station in Madras, Bombay, and Calcutta. And during the 18th century, another breakthrough occurs in this area, that is for the arrival of the French people. They also came in this area for doing business, and there was a clash between the French business people and the British East India Company. But we also noticed that for the cause of the fall of Mughal Empire, British company became the, sorry,